If we all agree that risk management is an activity undertaken to support a strategy, how do we build the bridge and start powerful risk conversations? One of the non-delegable responsibilities of executives, that's what we talk about today. Great to have you here.
Corporate integrity, fraud, non-compliance, and cybersecurity. Would you like to understand the root causes, detect threats, and take measurements to protect the most precious assets? As a leader, you need to be prepared and stay actionable in the event of an incident. Sonja Stirnimann talks in her podcast, The Human Factor, Corporate Integrity Matters, to leaders and entrepreneurs who want to have impact, foster corporate integrity, and act as role models. As an international expert for corporate governance and integrity, entrepreneur, and independent board member, she knows the challenges. Let her inspire you.
Welcome back to this new episode of the podcast, The Human Factor, Corporate Integrity Matters. You might be a board member, an executive, an investigator, and an auditor, internal or external. In short, a corporate integrity leader, or on your way there. What we all have in common is we strive for leadership with integrity. I'm your mentor and sparring partner when it comes to corporate integrity with impact, founder of Corporate Integrity Concepts with different formats for corporate integrity leadership, and the vision to protect and secure assets, reputation and actionability, yours and the one of your organizations. Why? Because corporate integrity matters to all of us. But why is strategy communication an important part of our risk management approach? One of the issues that is often seen in risk and performance management initiatives is a lack of clarity around the strategy and objectives. The initiatives, not only in risk management, lack a strategy of context, and as already discussed in episode 44, the big picture plays an important role again. The question asked is, what are our risks? But hardly ever, what are we trying to achieve, and therefore, what are the inherent risks of that? With losing that close connection of the strategy and the objectives, hardly any management initiative can become a success for the organization. It's just not possible. And the solution would be a strategy communication that sticks. I recently had an interesting conversation with one of our clients during an internal investigation. She was in the report writing process already, collecting all the findings and reflecting on the root causes. When I studied the patterns of the misconduct, the following question would have raised the red flags already years before. What are we trying to achieve by doing that? And also by doing what? We as humans often don't see the good things in front of us by searching too far. It seems to be too obvious and not sophisticated enough, but the good answers are close, and if you have the right questions, even closer. Questions are, depending on the cultural background you live in, still underrated helpers in your business. As a child, we were all eager to learn and ask so many questions. Some of us were stopped to do so because it can be very exhausting for the parents and the entire social environment. Others were motivated to ask. Guess what kind of development each of those two approaches had. So if you are still having that hindering belief that questions are not welcomed, I hope at least the argument of managing your risks could motivate you to think a little bit about that and start again, if not yet done. Whose responsibility is it to answer these questions? What are we trying to achieve by doing what? It is the board, the executive and the non-executive. Delegable? No. And if we have to answer it, we also have to make sure that it is understood by the ones involved supporting us to manage the risk. This would maybe be the moment when I personally must sit back and think about it seriously. How can we do that it is understood? To make it more tangible, when my objective or goal is, name it however you prefer it, to increase my physical health back to the condition I had 4 years ago, and my strategy to achieve that is I'm going to sleep more, exercise more, and eat healthier, the inherent risks are in the undertakings to follow my strategy. I try to achieve the physical health I had 4 years ago by sleeping and exercising more and eating healthier. By doing what exactly? My strategy informs my tactics, which tell me how to implement the strategy. What is now reflected on my personal risk landscape? All the way along the tactics, and not only about the strategy nor the goal. We are still early in the year and individual goal-setting review rounds are already conducted last month or scheduled for this one. When it comes to the projects our people are involved, how is the risk perspective reflected? A project is one part of a tactic. Otherwise, we would not need these. How is the process towards the risk landscape? How are the risks identified within the projects, having the questions, what are we trying to achieve by doing what, asked? I'm not sure. I know these are a lot of questions right at the beginning, and there is an agenda behind. What I experience when these questions are raised, first in a round of either experts or boards, is that no answer can be given. Not because they don't want to or they don't know about it. We are just not used to that. So to remember, risk management is an activity undertaken to support the strategy and operational performance of the business. In my opinion, it should not be approached as a sole compliance activity. Yes, I know, often the driver behind the initiative or project may be a regulator. It should always be approached as a tactic and business activity designed to deliver value and benefit to the business purpose and objectives. Risk management is done for the sake of protecting the organization's most precious assets, whatever you believe these are. So with these few questions sourced by the tactics to follow the strategy and achieve the goals, I'm convinced that the relevant risks are efficiently managed for your business. Risk initiatives need to be challenged as well as other projects as part of the tactical measurements set in place. What we implement with our clients are not only the questions to be raised, but also how the entire communication can be set up to ensure that objectives and strategies can be conducted by the ones responsible for the tactic. There are no one-fit-all approaches when it comes to the risk communication process, but there are practical tools to communicate with impact. When you reflect on what I raised over the last few minutes, I have 2 questions to take along. Which are the risks you no longer need on your risk landscape because they are not relevant anymore? And the second one, which are the ones newly rooted in the tactics you decided to follow on for 2022? This was the episode number 46 of the Human Factor Corporate Integrity Matters. Following the motto, corporate integrity secures and empowers individuals and organizations. Thank you for listening. My name is Sonja Stirnimann and I'm your host. Stay curious, actionable and a role model. Thank you and goodbye. Would you like to learn more, meet peers and getting qualified? So visit the website Corporate Integrity Concepts or Corporate Integrity Academy. Or do you think this podcast could be interesting for someone you know? Sharing is caring, and we are always happy to welcome your peers to our community. And if you like this episode, subscribe and don't miss any of the future ones. The show notes are, of course, enriched with relevant information, and your connection via any of the social media channels is highly appreciated and will be answered. Promised. And please do not forget, topics of your interest or interview partners are highly welcome. Just send me a note on any of the channels you know.